Hi, I'm Gelly, and I'm recording a sort of tutorial. It'll be very stream of conscious, unfortunately. Maybe someday I'll make a modular tutorial, but this is going to be a tutorial for realMyst Masterpiece Edition all pages. I think any percent is simple enough to where you could just follow it based on literally any run. But this has a lot of interesting subtleties and potential strats that I haven't bothered to test. So I'm just going to be discussing that sort of in a single take, and just sort of let that be, and hope people can benefit from that. So I mean, let's get into it. I don't have a lot of things to explain. I do have a thing on the side here that is my mouse and some keys that are important. The only one that is missing is caps lock, which I will get into as well. So the first sort of setup that you have to have here is that your movement speed has to be maxed. It has to be like all the way off the end. This is to ensure that you get the maximum speed. And as it turns out, Classic Myst tends to be faster than free roam when you crank it up that far. So you want to make sure that that's as maximum as possible. As for the mouse look speed, that's really up to you. I think I have it at max just because the sensitivity in this game is pretty bonkers. So you have to actually max this out to make it work. This is a bunch of stuff. You'll see this screen multiple times depending on your GPU, unfortunately. But before we get into the actual run, here's a couple of setup things. Interactive guides and invert look, up to you. Doesn't really make a difference. I would turn interactive guides off for like a slight FPS boost, but that's about it. As for graphics quality, you want to make sure you're in advanced settings because, yeah, make sure you're also not automatically adjusting because depending on how good your computer is, I mean, for me, it puts it on like high or max. So you don't really want that. Resolution, up to you. Anisotropic filtering, all this stuff is off because we want to maximize FPS for one single trick in the game, which I'll get to. So everything's turned off. And it makes the game look interesting, but you get used to it after a while, so it's not really a super big problem. But yeah, that's really about it. Sound is up to you. Most of this menu stuff is basically optimize FPS and nothing else. As for the save system, you'll get real comfortable with this system. I think for fairness' sake, you have to have a save in each one of these that looks like this. Because there's, as far as I can tell, no useful sage glitch that is usable with any of these saves or anything along those lines. So, I think in a couple of runs I do this where I sort of save over every single slot just to prove I'm not using previous saves. That ends up being important. So yeah, so we're going to be doing all pages again, so it looks a lot different than any percent as a category, so we start in Classic. There's something I have to explain first, which we're going to be using a couple of times. So when you do a first input coming out of a save, starting a new game, or entering a new age in Classic, so the first time that you ever do a Classic movement, it is slowed down to default speed. I'm not really sure why this is other than being cinematic, so like, you can tell how slow that was. This is way faster, right? So in order to prevent that from affecting our run on first movement, which by the way, the timing starts on first movement, but the auto splitter should handle that. To alleviate that, and I think this is the best way, I turn to the left and then turn back right. It may be possible that turning to the right and then back left is faster, but I think the transition is just a little bit slower. So you do left, right, and then go forward. So I should explain the locomotion in this game in terms of Classic. In 99% of cases, when you're moving, you can just hold click, and you can sort of see that in my controls. You just hold click, and it'll go from node to node to node to node, which ends up being extremely useful. So the only thing that you have to monitor when you're doing this is just the position of your mouse. There are some interesting things that happen in certain instances. So for example, if I'm clicking over here, this is what I would call the dead zone, right? The left and the right side of the screen sort of flip your cursor. So you don't want those. So you go up on like here, right? But sometimes, and I don't really know what the scenario is, I think it's based on some weird things. I'm not entirely sure. You can get a different transition animation based on literally where your mouse is. I don't think this is a good example. Sometimes there we go. That's slower, and I really don't know why they implemented it that way. It's very confusing why there are multiple clicks for the same transition. I feel like it's a very patchwork sort of solution, but I believe the ones that look crazy like that are indeed slower, so you want to sort of avoid those. But there's only like one other instance of this that I can actually recall, so, and it's pretty easy to avoid both of them, but that's just something to keep in mind. So, starting on the actual route, what we're going to do is unlock literally only one thing. We're going to do the hardest world record route because I don't think it's too difficult. But first, we need to flip the switch because this is the only time we ever really encounter this. It may be possible later in the run when we're in realMyst and we're going to the ship that we change stray, flip the switch, and then keep going. That's testing for later. I will maybe come up with that later and determine if that's faster. This is another interesting sort of thing. So you can do 2 transitions in 1 click if you're careful. So for example, if I hold far left here, I turn to Tiana's grave. If I go forward, then I go forward, right? My destination is to hit this transition right here. So there's a middle sort of strip, like right about here, where you make both transitions at the same time. And this happens quite a lot, and you have to be pretty careful of it. This is the first instance that I think of where it's important to make sure that you get that coming out of the switch here. So you have to sort of here, yeah. So now we're going to continue as we're making our way down. There's no real good way. I think you can technically do this. Yeah, okay, that's what I usually do. Never mind. So again, there's multiple ways to do this, but the fastest way is to combine 2 transitions by directly clicking on it. You can tell how small the hitbox is. It's not great, but it works. So of course you do leaf, flip switch, turn, and then you want to hold your mouse over here until you're over here. Flip switch, and then do full take. This is the other instance of the transition that can be different based on where your mouse is. Just hold near the middle, and you'll be fine. I don't know why that is. It may be the same speed for all I know. It looks about equivalent, but it's definitely silly. So just do the middle of the. I tried to do the regular one. There we go. So just do the middle and hold down. There are 2 ways to enter this door here effectively. One of them is riskier than the other, but it probably saves like 0.2 seconds. So the first way is to just click, right? And you enter here and you're all good. But for whatever reason, and I can't turn around that way, that's interesting. If you're entering this door, oh, I might as well explain this while we're here. Sometimes the graphics mess up and they replicate that exact screen. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it happens usually just on Myst Island. And if it happens, it's probably a reset. If you're, just looking to get a run done, it only costs like 5 seconds because you got to wait for it, maybe 2 to 3, I don't know. But for whatever reason, based on your GPU, like for example, I'm currently running this off of probably a 1060, although there might be a 960 in there, and it displays that screen. For crappier GPUs or different GPUs or whatever, you might get a black screen. I think I've gotten a green screen on laptop before. Just basically know that that's unavoidable, and for whatever reason it happens occasionally. I have no explanation, I'm sorry. So, as I was explaining, there are 2 ways to enter this door. The first is to click through there fast, right? Or you can hit F7, and so this would be the first instance of a node jump. So when you hit F7, you can sort of tell, something weird is happening. And this all comes down to the fact that when you're operating in classic mode, you're moving from node to node to node to node, right? So like I'm currently standing sort of on a node here, although when I'm rotating, it's actually a different node. But when you hit F7, it turns you from classic to free roam and then back to classic. I've seen it happen. I know the process. This is how they choose to correct any sort of errors which are possible. And there's a couple of instances where the game gets really funky in classic, and that's the way you fix it. However, we can use that to skip this transition up here if you're really careful. So as you can tell, by default, if I'm hitting F7 and the door is closed, it just jumps you back here. However, if the door is open and it's up about here, it's really hard to time. There we go. Then you jump directly in. And your mouse happens to be over the control set of buttons as well. So it's more convenient. Now, the reason that I don't do this anymore is because A, it's harder to pull off, and B, it may or may not be faster. This movement here just feels a little bit more slick to me, and I haven't timed it, of course, but it's really up to you because it actually doesn't make a major difference. But anyways, the solution, of course, is this one. I believe there was another one like this. I really should be testing around with this. I think this is also 59. Yeah, there are a lot of solutions. This one happens to be my personal preference because it's contiguous and it's fast. So now we've solved the powerhouse for Selenitic. Now you want to continue through here. Again, this is another hard hitbox to hit, but you want to do spider, back up, snake, back up, turn. This is another transition that you can save by doing both at once here. Normally, if you're hitting in the front here, you'd have to turn, but there is like a little sliver. I believe the cue that I use is hitting on this near the edge that doesn't zoom you into this box here. And we continue on to Selenitic. Flip this switch, and that's basically Myst 1 except for this part. And I've tried for lots of hours to try to come up with an effective way to do this. Pretty much every other version of this game has visual cues that are actually pretty decent. This game does not. I have one visual cue for this one, and that's all I've got. So I will show you how I do this. You may come up with a better method. I would like to know, because this probably costs me the most time in terms of optimization. So you can tell it's really hard to tell. Let me see if I can like boost brightness on this real quick. Unfortunately, this game is decently dark, so let me see if I can add a filter to this. Add color correction, maybe. Brightness. It's not affecting it. Okay, whatever. All you need to know is that you will be able to see on the side here that there are two little nicks here, and you line up the top edge of this button with this nick here, and you get the correct note there. From here, I do my best to audibly tell that I need this to be an octave up from here. Okay. Yeah, so that sounds about right. That's about as far as I can tell in terms of sound, so that works. I believe it's 12 ticks if you really wanted to count it out, but you really shouldn't have to. From here, you line it up exactly with the same note here, and then you go up 3, because you're up 3 notes, 3 semitones, whatever. From here, this one goes, you line it up with this one, and you go up 5. Okay, and then this one I like to guts because the actual setup for it sucks. So you line it up with this one, and then you go down 3. Oh, it's just 2, sorry. That's why it sucks. I don't actually know whether it's 2 or 3. I have troubles with this. See, now I'm confusing myself. Anywho, you figure out your own method, but there you go. So now you have this. And we're going to do the first stage glitch. It's not necessary, and you really probably don't have to do this, but it might save like 2 seconds each time you do this. I still have to do the timing on this. If you don't want to do this, you can just enter and just go and just wait for the transition, and it's probably fine. But if you want to pull off the stage glitch, what we're going to do is we're going to go forward, we're going to enter the age, back off, make a save, and then load it. And most of the time you end up out here. This saves a little bit of walking distance, and also if you do it fast enough, it cuts out loading time, or the transition time where it sort of fades out. It cuts that out. But the trade-off is that instead you have to take a slow transition here, which may or may not make sense. I'm not entirely sure. If you do the alternative, right, which I'll just walk through here, it's, again, the far easier method. Just hop in and wait. The loading time takes a little bit longer. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to, while that's waiting, you have to do a flip from free roam to classic so that you're actually back here. Then you just turn and you go forward. Either way, they're sort of equivalent. I haven't timed it yet. It doesn't really matter because it's seconds or maybe halves of seconds. Anywho, now we're going to go into probably the roughest transition space. I guess is the best word I have for it, because the transitions here are murky and weird and they don't work like they should. It's basically a more confusing version of the originator Myst Island. So when you hit this point here, because from here this is relatively easy. You just hold forward. When you're here, you need to fling left and then fling forward. So boink boink, right? And then that'll work. So let's say you don't do that, right? You sort of hold forward, or you don't do it good enough. You go here, and then you have to turn left. So you want to make sure that that transition is covered by, or those two transitions are covered by this single transition. If you hold left for too long, so like for example, like this, then you just start doing this loop, which is always fun. So you want to sort of avoid that. Yeah, so that's the first pretty rough part of Selenitic. Once you get past that, this isn't hard. Hold your mouse above where the blue page is, and you'll go to the blue page. There's a bunch of transitions here that are weird, but you can pretty easily avoid them. This isn't too difficult. You just hold your mouse over where the blue page is, pick it up, turn, and then go forward here. Now crossing this is probably the hardest part of Selenitic, honestly. It depends on your definition of hard. So as you're going through here, you need to try to make it over to there, facing that direction. But that's easier said than done. So I'm going to demonstrate it here, hopefully. Okay, yeah. So you have to do a bunch of switching back and forth, and it sucks. So left, and then right. If you don't do it right, so for example, if I'm just holding left here, I seem to get it there. I think I overrode myself in terms of being able to do it. Basically, if you hold forward here, you face this direction, and this turn just sucks. It also turns out that, at least when I'm doing it, or at least when I feel it, this transition feels a lot longer than the actual intended transition to here. So just to wrap up everything, you just go here, here, click there, and then you want to click not so that you turn, but so that you get this transition here. And then keep going forward. From here, this is really hard it used to be really hard for a long time, but you can tell there's these two sort of spires of crystal here. As long as you hold your mouse above this one, you'll make it up just fine. So I will demonstrate that real quick. You just hold your mouse over it, and you should be good to go. After you make that this turn right here, sorry, these transitions are really long, so if you mess it up, it really sucks. As long as you make this turn right here, then you're good to go. There's no problem here. But basically, the entire point was to grab the blue page and then land right here, and this begins the entire sequence of Maze Runner Skip. So first, you want to transition to the menu here by hitting escape and then hitting the little thing down here. So like this. You hit free roam. Sorry, no. I have made a mistake, and I will do my best to fix it. There's two ways of doing this, and I was doing the older, weird way. Basically, just hit F7 first, and that adjusts it. The older way, which I was doing for whatever reason, it's sort of a little more playful, is you free roam, classic, free roam. And I thought that would be faster, but I think the key press just makes that a lot faster. So what you'll want to do, if you're good at the game, is F7, and then flip to free roam. So now to go out of bounds here, you hold like directly backwards till you fall off, and then you'll want to make a strafe in about this direction. So here's an interesting point that I forgot to mention. I didn't have caps lock on. Caps lock is extremely important to make sure that you are always sprinting. Otherwise you go pretty sluggishly slow. So just keep caps lock on for the entire run. It doesn't affect anything else. Anywho, make this strafe, and then let's see. So this is difficult, and I'm never really good at this. You have to land in a tunnel that's over, like, here, right? If you go too far to the left or too far to the right, you just fall out. And it is possible to rectify that, but it sucks. So you will want to be making a strafe here, and you want to cut through this crystal right about at this polygon from the angle that you land out. So like this, hopefully. Yep, there we go. So we should be cutting into it right about here. All right, cool. So now we've landed in the tunnel. I don't know if there's a more secure setup for it. If you would prefer to come up with that, feel free. I choose to just guts it because distance takes time, so the less distance, the better. Now you're strafing into this tunnel here, and there are two ways to do this, and I'm going to make a save here because it's hard. So I'm going to start off with the easy way and the way that I continue to use before I'm going to hyper-optimize this game. You strafe into the corner here, open the door, and then there's this little hole in the corner of the door here. And it's hard to understand why this exactly works, but basically I flip left, right, and I fall through. Right, so I will demonstrate that again. So in case you mess up, by the way, you can always just classic and it'll snap up to the top. Free roam, okay. So you go into this corner, left, while holding forward, left, right, and that usually works. Sometimes you'll go around it, and it's just weird, but with a lot of practice, you should be able to get this pretty convincingly. From here, to fall down as fast as possible, you want to make saves over and over and over again without loading them. Right? And this is what the high FPS is for. Once you fall about past this point, you hold backwards to unload the area above you, because the moment that you leave that sort of ring, it unloads that area. And then you can flip to classic and you are able to just leave here. There is a faster way that, if done correctly, would save about 4 seconds, but it's extremely difficult, and I've only gotten it to work like once. So I will try to demonstrate it here. So you open the door. Oh! I spoke too soon. On this first go, you always have to do this, so we'll just do this. I will demonstrate that trick later. Keep that in mind. So boink. And just make a bunch of saves over and over. The faster you do this, the better you do, because it makes you fall faster, because essentially, as far as I can tell, what's happening there is that you induce lag while you're falling at high frame rates, and this causes the frame rate to short out for a bit. And so, for whatever reason, that speed just sort of rockets you down until you hit a speed cap. So, anywho, a little tip for going through this tunnel here, which I like to use. You want to hold your mouse over where the button's about to be, and then mash on that last transition, and you'll make it through. You can keep your mouse pretty much in the same place until you hit the book, and you'll just make it through that tunnel pretty easily. Now, every time that you transition from an age, you want to mash click over here for so let me see here. Let me see if I can I think it's there we go. So you want to mash over here. And it doesn't work. It only works when you transition to an age that it overlaps those. Otherwise, if you're doing like F7, which I'm trying to demonstrate here, you know, it doesn't work. It only works when you have that slow transition for the first time. But anyway, you head in the book here. Make sure to not pick up this page. Otherwise, the run is essentially over because you have to redo Selenitic Blue. But slam into the book, click off, click on the page, click off, and then click backwards. And now we go back to Selenitic. So the mouse movements are relatively easily, so I'm not going to over-explain them again. Okay, so now, if you want to try the 4 to 5 second faster method for Selenitic, you have to Sage glitch out here, and it has to work perfectly. So I will try to demonstrate that here. Okay, good. If you're out of the spaceship, it's worked. So I will explain that when I get there, but essentially now we're going to get the red page. So from this point, you have to make the transition. So you do this, and then this. So again, it sort of applies. Hold it over the crystal, and then you go to the red page here. Relatively easy mouse movement. And then here, you turn around, and it basically starts the same way. as doing Echinar Blue does. So no problems here. So hopefully I get this. There we go. Yep. So occasionally you'll fall out the left or right side. If you want to save it, if you want to do practice again, so like if you fall out the left or right, you can switch to classic, and you have like about a minute to do it because the floor to the death plane takes about a minute to fall all the way. So you shouldn't have a problem in Selenitic. So we're going to attempt the more complex method. So now that I've initiated the proper sage glitch, the maze runner isn't here save for a weird little bar that's on the side, right? And this is what we need to do. So you open the door, keep strafing. Actually, I'm going to make a save here just in case something goes wrong again. Although I think the save, if I load it, I don't know, we'll see. So you keep going this way. And what you need to do is you need to be hanging off the edge, right? So you can sort of tell that because we're a capsule, we sort of sink into the ground a little bit. And it's really hard to get this, by the way. I don't have a setup for like, you know, let go at this moment. You just have to, I mean, if you went fast, this would be fast. But if I'm taking all this time to set up, I basically lost all the time. If you fall off, it's basically the old setup, but you've taken a lot of time to be stupid about it. So then what you do, if you're off the edge enough, and I don't even know if this is correct, I'm going to make a save just in case. You flip to classic and free roam, and we're at the bottom of the tunnel. It saves the falling that you have to do in exchange for making, you know, a lot of setup time and so on and so forth. The other exchange that we have to make is that we have to run to the edge of the tunnel from the center. So you have to make a mad dash like this, and then you can flip to classic. I don't do this method for obvious reasons, but if you think that you're actually good at this game, or better than me at the very least, or at least you can implement that, feel free. It'll be a while before I ever try to do that. Okay, so now you mash to the left to finish out Selenitic Red. This book has a weirder hitbox, so like near the top it doesn't like work. So you had to go nearer to the bottom. This book, for whatever reason, just feels harder. There are two ways to leave the red book. I prefer this way, which is to just turn like this. But it's probably technically faster to hit F7 and then to click here. But it's harder to pull off because the hitbox here is you know, sometimes you do like this, for example, and it's distressing when you're floundering around in Myst library. But whatever suits you. So next we're going to head to Channelwood. Here's an interesting thing that I probably should have noted earlier. When you are making your transition over here, sometimes you'll look at the ship if you're doing it wrong. If you leave your mouse down, it'll look at the ship. So what I like to do is I like to hop my mouse over it, and then it just works. And you sort of follow your mouse on the path. So now, as quick as possible, you hop into here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boink. Grab match. You can tell when it lights because it's obvious. And then this is the first sort of timed section, is waiting for the tree to go up enough for you to do the tree clip. So I'm gonna make a save just in case I over-explain this and I lose the time window to do this. Actually, while we're here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip to free roam. What you're gonna be aiming for is this polygon right here. You can sort of tell that this is like a, you know, a triskaidekagon or whatever, like a 13-sided thing instead of actually being a round tree. But you're going to be aiming for this side of the tree right here on its right side when the time comes. But until then, what we're going to do is, when you're in Classic, you turn the wheel all the way. We're going to solve the clockwork bridge, and then we're going to go to Channelwood. So, like this. 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to flip back because the animation waits. I flip the switch here. I will explain the clockwork bridge thing when I have time. We'll get back to it. But anyways, yeah, so I think I missed it. That's interesting. This might still work. If it doesn't, then you'll know what happens. Okay, so this is also harder to explain. So when you're going through that tree there, you have to make sure that you hold like straight back when you're going into it. I used to do this method where I used to wrap around and fall at least in a lot of my older runs. It turns out that due to the newest patch, there isn't any collision up there, and you'll load in a room that doesn't exist, basically. You can also occasionally land over here behind these trees. That's actually easily fixable by switching to Classic and then to free roam, because then you'll pop in like right here, which is fine. That's decent enough. But basically, to pop through the tree, you just hold forward until you start falling, and then you hold backwards, and you will go through here. You then make a nice spin here, and then go into the boat. I'm going to explain buffering in a menu. So when the loading bar hits the end, you can hit escape, and that buffers in a menu. All you need to do is switch into Classic before the transition finishes. So that's the fastest way to open up a menu. It starts opening it on the first available frame. So that's cool. Channelwood is a little bit rough, but it's pretty easy to manage. As long as you keep your mouse in the sort of direction that you're going, you're good. We have to flip this valve at some point or another. You could do it after, at the very end. I like to do it while I'm still remembering, so I just flip that valve. And that's the only valve that we ever flip in this run, thankfully. So you hold your mouse. This is relatively easy stuff. There are some dead zones, but as long as your mouse follows the path, you should always continue moving. And then start the water, back up, go over here, and switch to free roam. And this is, I think, the hardest trick in the game to pull off, because it just doesn't make any sense, especially when you don't have like the ability to jump and stuff like that. This shouldn't work, but it does. So the first thing that you do is you pop up onto this beam here, and so you sometimes need to wiggle occasionally, and it'll just pop you up. And then you have to feel it for yourself, but in this corner there is a place you can sort of sink into this beam, and this is the safe way to do it. So if you go like too far, the beam pushes you off. You can't do that. But there is like a little point where if you like back up, you'll sort of sink into the beam. That's too far. I think this is too far as well. Yeah. There's a little thing in the corner where you can sort of sink into the beam, and when you do that, you know you've gotten your position correctly. This looks about right. So now I'm sort of sinking in the corner. So I'm holding forward. You slowly swivel your mouse over, and you'll pop over the other side of the beam. This makes zero sense, and if you fail it, it's totally understandable, because I fail it all the time too. The second one is worse because you can't actually see the beam in front of you. So you have to imagine that there's more beam in front of you and that you're getting the same sort of angles. Like, I think this is too far, but this might work. This looks good. So you slowly, okay. Once you pop up onto the roof here, then you're good. If you're stuck a little bit, you could just wiggle out. I actually wiggled out a little too hard here. That's fine. If you make a mistake like this, it's probably just faster to switch to Classic and then a free roam, and you'll be good. So I'll try to demonstrate how I would do this. That wasn't good. There we go. There we go. Okay, and then you just sort of wiggle out, and there you go. So now there's this invisible thing here. You want to be careful when falling off of this. You want to be far left of these beams, otherwise it won't let you transition. But you want to be just about under the water here. Once you've done that, make sure you're facing this direction as well. You switch to Classic, and then close the menu, and you should be up here. If you're too high up, which I didn't make a decent enough save for, you'll basically pop back into a position that is available near the whole water windmill section. So you can just retry it again. It's not the end of the world. Unless you're on a world record pace, then it is the end of the run. So, for opening this door, you want to open it near the middle, because I'm not even kidding. Let me see if I can get this door to close. Thank you. Okay, it won't close. Alright, there we go. You can only enter the door for the sections that it's revealed, so you want to sort of hold it there. Yeah, so let me try that again. So like, for example, if I'm clicking here, only when the doors move out of the way does it work. Very silly stuff, but all you need to do is click near the middle of the door and you pop through. turn left, turn down here, grab this page, go back. So can I just grab the page and ooh, new tech. Hold on. Can I drop page? That's fine, whatever. Yeah, so I guess you just need to double click this page, turn left, and then you're leaving. So in order to fall off here, and I'm gonna make a save here because I messed this up at ESA, thanks. Shoutouts to me. You wanna be in this position, hit F7, and then it's sort of precise. I'm actually gonna probably do this multiple times, so I'm gonna save it from here when I'm in free roam. So let's say you're a little too high up and you flip to classic. You will now be on the second level. And this is savable, but it's not great. And it's basically, you know, you're taking a little bit of time out. If you're too high up here, right, you can rub against this. And you'll, if you're careful, this is an old strat, by the way, so I'm not great at it. You can sort of pop through the gap. So once you're on this side, yeah, you can pop through the gap between this bridge and the building, and then you can just flip to classic again, and you'll be on the stairs. We'll reload this. If you're too low and you transition, that's impossible. So basically, the lower the better. But you know, it takes time to fall, and if the death floor, which I'll demonstrate here real quick, it's actually just barely under the water. So it's right about, well, not barely under the water, but it feels, it's a lot shorter than, say, Selenitic, where you have a lot of time. So basically you just want to fall until you hit like about this point, and then classic. Turn around on the stairs and just go forward. You could tell that the door here was weird. That's just the way it is. Don't worry about it. It won't let me close the door, will it? Okay, but basically you want to open the door and hold click where it's opening, because all the doors in Channelwood seem to follow the rule that it reveals the click point that's available to you. So now I'm just taking the path to the bridge, because the water should be routed the bridge now. Sorry, there's two valves that we flip. I'm a liar. So this is the worst thing ever. Much like the valves in Channelwood, which I guess I should demonstrate while I'm here. If you're clicking on the lever, that's great, right? If you click anywhere outside of the lever, you're flipped back out. So you have to just take it slow, right? Similarly, this bridge also needs you to take it slow. If you click anywhere outside, you're back here. So you just pull it back, and then you just leave while the bridge is coming up. You now need to flip this valve, and then we're basically done with flipping valves because we've now done everything. There is something I should show off here. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to reload this save. It's a little bit further back, but there is something that I want to show just in case it ever happens. To be the strat denom or whatever. I don't know. Is that a thing? Whatever. Flip to classic. Yeah, that was actually really risky. That was me doing bad. You technically could probably get away with not doing the bridge here. So I'm going to save here. So if we were doing a bridgeless strat, which may or may not be available, I don't know, there is a way to avoid the bridge. So if you're standing right here, you hit F7. Again, you could tell how obvious that shift was. You sort of walk forward here. Oops. Please. Okay. All right. You have to walk around the edge of the water thing here. And basically you're gonna fall onto this bridge here. And then what you want to do is you want to go slow-ish, but you want to go left and then flip, and you make it onto the other side of the bridge. Not only is it probably a little bit slower, it's actually, if I can imagine it, it's faster in general. Like if you compare this strat of skipping the bridge to, you know, redirecting the water to the bridge, going all the way back, flipping the valve, and so on and so forth, it's probably faster once. But the fact is that, you know, and I'm going to reload the save that I made if I remember it, you would have to cross the bridge in that manner twice. And that's probably what makes it slower. So instead what we'll do is we'll just... hello, here we go. So we'll just do the strat that I've been doing, which is basically, you know, go here, unlock bridge, and then go back. And again, this is easy enough. There's no problems here. Thankfully, we don't have to flip a lot of valves because we're not messing around with elevators or nothing like that. There used to be a time where we had to flip like all 7 levers, you know, or, you know, there used to be a time where you had to flip a lever every single time. It doesn't really matter. So this is a little bit weird, and I should be careful of this because this is a mistake that I make a lot. So if you... There's a dead zone like right here in the middle, right? Sort of. It's weird to understand. So the bridge, you know, mostly curves this way. So when you're doing it normally, you sort of list your thing off this direction, right? But if I keep it over on this direction, it stops. You need to follow the bridge through to completion by literally following the bridge. You want to swing really hard here as well, because otherwise it just doesn't work. Click and then turn around pretty quickly and go into the elevator here. Sometimes if you hit that God run back, you will be faster than the water going to the elevator. Just wait until you hear the sound. It doesn't happen too common anymore. I think the patch made it so that it was a little bit harder to do. But basically wait until you hear the water if something like that happens. Or basically flip the lever again, because that's about as much time as lenience as we have. So then you want to click on this edge of the elevator again so you can instantly transition. And that's Channelwood Blue. Hopefully I didn't lose you two there. Hopefully I didn't lose you too much there. The Channelwoods are notoriously complicated, unfortunately. So go back here, and then go forward. So I'm going to explain what I mean by doing the whole click thing. So I'm going to do what, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll do 10 here. So if I were to just do 8 and 2, that would actually be slower than what I do, which is 6, 1, 1, 1, 1. Because I guess you can only click this wheel, let's say, once every, I don't know, 10 frames. That doesn't sound right, but it's like once every 10 frames, right? And I can only click this wheel once every 10 frames. So this would take me 100 frames to do if I were to just do. But it turns out that the animations can overlap. So I can do 6 of them here, 60, but then I do 1, and then while waiting for this one to finish, I can click this one, and then this one, and then this one. And, you know, that would be like, you know, 5 frames for each instead. So it would be like 85 frames. It saves, like, you know, it saves more time than that. It saves more than 15 frames. But it doesn't save a whole lot of time, and it doesn't really make a difference. There's 2 ways that you can effectively do it as well. No, this is the fastest way. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you hit the button immediately, and you're good to go. That's why I do the wheels in the way that I do. You may notice that in other versions people don't do that. It's because the animations can't overlap in other versions, or some of the other versions at the very least. Anywho, that's all boring stuff, and that's just a minor strat thing, but that's important. So go left here, and then you want to turn this down, and this one's a little bit tighter. If you go fast enough, you can actually save a little bit of time by switching to realMyst in the before you enter the tree. I don't think I'm going to manage that, but I'm going to do my best. And if I fail it, I can show you what it looks like to fail. So flip the switch here and hold, and then you just go up this way. Oh, I think I missed my window. Oh, there we go, I got it. All right. So if you do this in free roam, then you can leave the tree a thing earlier. I don't actually achieve this in my world record, so that's technically free. But it's really risky because if you miss it, then that's run over. You basically have to send the tree back up and then down. Here's what it looks like when it's slow, and actually, maybe I can explain how I solve this again. That was interesting. So yeah, you flip this up. So you do 1 and hold, wait, 1 and hold, wait, and then 1. And the reason I do the 1 last is because then I can leave pretty much instantly. But okay, let's say, oh, I don't feel like that's safe. I'm just gonna enter this in Classic. You can tell that by the time I hit the 1 that I would have normally left by, I'm mashing click as hard as I can and it doesn't let me. So anyways, if you enter this book in realMyst, you're gonna want to buffer in a thing here. Actually, no matter what, you're gonna want to buffer it in because I like to do that. It's free enough. And then you just, so it's turning nighttime here, and this is the rough thing about doing a stream of conscious tutorial like this. Swing left here, is because the day-night cycle is gonna mess with it. You'll notice you'll probably want to follow the. I might want to start a new save and recombobulate, but we'll see. Anyways, you want to make it to this point on the stairs, and it's because it turns out that the stairs, you can tell, oh my god, they're horribly sluggish in Classic. And it turns out it's really fast to not only go up the stairs in free roam, but to go up and strafe. And you just zip up the stairs, right? From here, you'll want to, I think, really anywhere on this door works, but most consistently tends to be this corner of the door. And you flip, turn around, and then enter Sirius. At some point, we're going to need to be realMyst, so I usually do it when I'm waiting for this door to open, either on this side or the other side. I like to do free roam here nowadays because it just feels a little bit better. And then this is the final trick. No, it's the second to final trick. Never mind. It's the worst part about Channelwood Red, unfortunately, and I don't have a good explanation for you. Maybe someday I'll come up with like a decent tutorial for this, but so like, let's say I'm running into this doesn't work, right? You know, I'm not, doing anything in particular. The reason that I'm ducking here is because it auto ducks you here. I don't understand why, and I don't think it's literally an auto duck. I think my feet sink into the ground. I don't have a way to prove that though. Anyways, this is wonky. But no, that's a bad example. Sometimes under weird conditions, and I really don't have like a good explanation for it, you just sort of clip into the thing here. Now the best way that I've found is most consistent is that you rub up against the edge of the door here, and sometimes you'll clip in. And I don't know when it happens or why it happens, but usually I can get it first try out of intuition. So I think it's an intuition thing. But once you're clipped out here, you don't want to go out here because then you've lost it. Thanks, man. Yeah, so you don't want to go too far out because the door closes, obviously, but other reasons. But once you're here, you want to go through this beam and then strafe this way. Okay, and land on here somewhere. And that saves a decent bit of time instead of running off even like the elevator over there, right? So anyways, keep strafing this way. So you want to maintain... Oh, I landed in a weird spot. It's my bad. You really want to be aiming for here and going up this way. So now that I'm in realMyst, and I really don't... realMyst, free roam. I get realMyst and free roam interchanged, so if I mention realMyst as a mode of transportation, just call it, it's free roam. So as we approach this door here, you can tell there's like a little bit of like a sticking point here. It has to do with the fact that the elevator actually extends out this far, and I don't know why. But if you head on that was weird. It sort of rocketed me forward. As long as you're careful, and the way I'm usually careful is I head towards the middle in this sort of strafe here. Anyways, you open the door, you go through, and then you close the door on yourself. And it doesn't matter how much the door is closed on you, just even a little bit of work. Just flip the lever. And so now, you want to be careful here, because it is possible to like sink through the ground like that. Am I softlocked? This might be a problem.
You stupid!
Alright, we're back. I hopefully fixed the lighting and everything by doing a bit of a speed run to this part. So yeah, as you can see there, if you fall through the floor there, that's a soft lock. You can't actually make your way up, unfortunately. Otherwise, it would be faster because you can skip the elevator. But otherwise, what you do is, you run the elevator here, close the door slightly on yourself. I mucked up the save here. Let me fix that. You will be able to close the door on yourself. It's just in the situation that I have done, I was not able to. Yeah, okay. So now, close the door on yourself. You go up. You want to make sure that you're high enough to not fall through, obviously. Am I going to do it again? Oh, okay. So you can be this low, but usually you pop up all the way through. This is real interesting, actually. I'm sort of curious what's going to happen. I don't think much is going to happen. So this is the only instance where we pop into back into Myst as realMyst, because we've actually kept up realMyst this entire time. So what you want to do is when you look this way, you right click, you strafe this way, and then click off. From here, you strafe all the way down to the boat here, and you just mash. Stoneship is pretty easy. I will explain what I know in terms of the timing and everything like that, but basically I use a sound cue to make this work out. So while you were waiting for this to load in, I was explaining some stuff. You should be popped back into Classic because you want to stay in Classic for basically as long as you can. You go this way through here. For visual reasons, I'm going to use realMyst to do this, but know that you can do this in Classic by doing this and then clicking near the top like that, right? But I'm going to have a better demonstration if I do free roam. So this is a little bit tight, and I've done the timing for this, and it turns out you can actually do this pretty leniently, but basically every cycle that the sound makes, that part, every time you get one of those, you basically get 50 seconds added to your timer. So I can usually do this section in 25 seconds. So in theory, I could cut that in half, but that's not worth it at that point. But if you don't think you can do this next section up here, which is a little bit tight, I mean, I said 25 seconds, but that's because I've been practicing it a lot and making sure I don't mess this up. In terms of the timing, basically, you could do 2 of them, and that should be enough time. But yeah, so, hello? There we go. Round of those. That's another 50. That's another 50. That's another 50. So on and so forth, right? But yeah, you'll want to be in Classic for that. And that's only something that you can hear, unfortunately. You can't really guess on that one. Anyways, you continue through to here, pump the left side. You do an F7 to clip out of bounds here, free roam, and the moment that you can, go to Classic. Pop here. This saves 2 transitions. As you can see, I can probably demonstrate that again. I've got like a bunch of minutes. But yeah, instead of clicking here, turning left, and then clicking left again, you can just do this. That actually saves 3 transitions, or it's 3 transition versus 1. Open just the bottom drawer because the other drawers are garbage and T-sets. Back out twice, go this way. Make sure you click this, it's a little tight, but that works. Double click and hold to make sure you go through this section. Make sure you only click this button and not another button to cause it to cancel. But now at this point, you have finished the power section. There's no need to go back to the generator, whatever. You basically have permanent power and as much time as you need, which is nice. So yeah, now you go back up here. You'll go through some water up here. This transition up ahead is a little bit hard. This one, you have to be clicking over here. If you're in a weird bit, you'll go like this way, and that sucks. Or usually what happens is I click here, and this is a dead zone, so you just click over here. This is another thing where you can hold your mouse where the button's going to be, and then mash when it happens. Make sure, so this section isn't too bad for this. You just, open the book and it happens, whatever. I'm going a little bit less in depth because Stoneship and Mechanical are easy, but the previous 2 levels are very difficult. But yeah, mash left here, And but yeah, we'll get to the book again. Don't worry about it. So this is our first actual time-saving sage glitch here. You make a save somewhere. I pick save 3 pretty consistently. I don't know why. I think 1 would be better, but I don't know. So when you're doing the ship section, something to be careful of, and something that happens, and I don't really know why, but it always happens when I do this, is that the ship will fall out. I'll show you what to do when that happens. But yeah, make sure to hold the mouse over here. This is a little bit tight. And then mash, and you fall through here. F7 fixes it, and you open the door again. So then, this sage glitch is important. You load while that's coming in. You buffer in a menu, and you flip from classic to free roam to classic again, and you'll be in this tunnel here. And now you can just turn around and do Akinar section. And this is very easy as well. I'm not concerned about this ever being a problem. There's no transition here, by the way, so... Oh, beans! I'm a liar. There is a transition right here. That is so tight. I didn't know that was there. Well, in an ideal world, I guess you aim for this dark spot, the left edge of that dark spot. If you go too far to the left, you just turn around, and if you go too far to the right, you do my strat. But you can save 2 transitions here. Or you can save 1, I guess. But yeah, backing out. That's a good one to know. I didn't realize that. That's pretty slick. Anyways, yeah. This is a little bit hard. You turn, go forward, and you sort of aim for, you know, this under part of the ship once again. This is the part... Jesus. This is the part where if you hit the table again, it reabsorbs the book, and I don't understand why. So don't hit the table, hit the book. And that's Stoneship. Stoneship is really easy. Mechanical is even easier, which we'll get to. Really, once you finish Channelwood in your mind... Oh, this is one thing. You do have to mash here. Otherwise, you get a wonky position. Like, as you saw, that was weird. That has to do with the fact that we're sage glitching into an age that isn't Selenitic while your current save is in Classic and you're going into Classic. It's very hard to explain, but it'll happen in your run. You just need to mash really fast. I used to think that you had to handle it in a special way. Turns out you don't. Anyway, that Stoneship's handled. Thankfully, we can do another save. So you just do the 2 sage glitches back to back. Don't flip the switch here. You're going to flip it later. Sage glitch here. Buffer in a menu. I think I did that wrong. Yeah, whatever. Switch free roam classic. Okay. Now, this is an interesting thing to keep in mind, and I don't really know why this happens, but occasionally the save doesn't put you here. This is an ideal place because your slow turnaround on your first entrance through a save or an age is a turnaround. So that's cool. But sometimes you get this. Sometimes you get this position here. What I would recommend is turn left and then right, and then go into Akinars. But if you're here, you're going to go for serious. And I call them mechanical 1 or 2 for that reason, and that the save, for whatever reason, doesn't work very consistently. But 90% of the time, you end up here, so it's not a problem. Turn around. You turn left at this position, and then you go through here, click towards the page. This is all relatively easy stuff. There isn't a lot of nuance here. There is a nuance here. There's a dead zone right in the middle, so you have to swing your cursor a little bit to the right to make this work. Swing your cursor to the right, you know, here. 2851 is a solution. Counting 8 is hard, but just do it. It's not the end of the world. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1. You can tell by the symbols too, you know. In case you're like, oh, this doesn't seem right, you know. So while that is happening, you click here and then you click forward into here. Let me see if I can better demonstrate that. You can relock this up. Isn't that a fun fact? But yeah, so while this is happening, you mash like right about here, and then you can go in here. And that's mechanical 1, I guess. Mechanical 2 is even easier. Of course, you get this weird askew library. Just mash. Shouldn't be a problem. Oops. Yeah, so you could tell there I missed. Sorry. I didn't manage to put the page in. That's because the hitbox of the book is weird. Anyways, this is the most boring stage, is Mechanical 2, because all you do is you just walk to it. As I explained in my ESA run, if you haven't watched it, you should watch it. It is point A to point B to point A for this entire section. No nuance here. Okay, there is one nuance, and it's just avoiding something that sucks, not saving time. No, okay, I'm a liar. On this transition, it is possible to head left here, and that saves a transition. But other than that, okay. So I need to talk about this door here, unfortunately. No, not the fortress rotations. Later, please. We have to wait for this to turn into that. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna make, yeah, that close. Great. What, is that chain moving? No, I'm stupid. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, we're here, right? So when you click this door, it closes on an automatic timeout. So I'm gonna show you what happens if you go too fast here. Sorry, let me try that one again. There we go. So this is the thing that I explained earlier, that node glitches or node jumping is meant to save, that F7 button. For whatever reason, when you close the door, it thinks we're outside, but we have a physical camera position that's inside. So you can like click around and stuff like that. This is all funky do and whatever, but it doesn't save time because when you had F7, you're here. So do avoid that because it's bad. But yeah, so you can do that by either going really, really fast, or no, sorry, by going a little bit slower. So I usually take my time here and wait for the door to close so that I open it again. Swing left, and that's pretty much all of the nuance of Mechanical 2, or I guess Mechanical Blue in this instance. So yeah, and that's all of the pages. Now you don't get an indication that you've handed in all the pages, but who cares? We all know, we watched it happen. So yeah, now here's where we need to switch to free roam. Now if I hit escape, it doesn't open the menu here. So the faster way to do it is to hit click escape, and it opens the menu. Switch to free roam. Okay, can I right click? Why can I not right click? That's weird. Okay, whatever. Usually when you leave this book, right, you can right click and then you just strafe out of here. Try to keep it close to all these buildings, up, down, and then you take a left strafe out of here and follow. And that's pretty simple. That's basically any percent route. There's no problem with that. But that's the only real intensive strafing section besides like Channelwood. So you close here. Okay, so I should explain this because it is possible to like be good at this. I think at one point I used to have a dot on my screen to indicate where the button appears. So you can click this button while you're swiveling around. Let me see if I can get it. I'm gonna put my finger on the screen. This is cheating, by the way. I'm pretty, well, no, it's not cheating, but it's just, it's weird. Hello? Let's try that one again. I'll go a little bit higher. Yeah, so you can do that while you're swiveling around. That saves a little bit of time. And then while this door is coming down, you can actually start entering in stuff. It's sort of cool, but I don't use that. I basically wait for it to come down before entering my solution. Now the way that I enter in the solution is pretty bad. This is my preferred method. You see, okay, that doesn't clear it, okay. I think I've seen Nauseum's route, and I'm gonna try to emulate that, but it's basically do 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 do. Basically, figure out what route works for you best. I think that one is slicker because it keeps, it's like a traveling salesman. Make sure it keeps the things relatively close to each other as much as possible. But yeah, as long as you can get this in, whatever. And then the next sequence of events is a little bit fast, so I'll try to walk through it beforehand. So you hit the button, you make a save, and then you click on this part of the window, not too far left, just here. And then when the book opens, you do a sage glitch in, so like this. Buffer in a menu, switch to classic, rotate over here, and click that bad boy. And that is the entirety of all pages. I'm going to Alt F4 because the cutscene bothers me at this point. But yeah, no, that is pretty much the entirety of all pages. So, okay, well, it's currently updating, I guess, whatever. Anywho, I hope that made sense. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, make sure to ask in the comments. If I'm not able to answer the question somehow, I'll redirect you to someone who definitely can. Or if the answer to the question isn't known, I will try to figure it out. So I hope you enjoyed. Join the Cyan Discord. It might be in the description of this video if you're not already in there. And I hope this was cool.